Reigate College offers two distinct A-level English courses, A-level English Literature and A-level English Language and Literature. The purpose of this video is to explain the differences between them, so that you'll have a better idea of which of the two courses you like to study. For either course, we welcome students who love reading of all kinds, have an inquisitive mind, and are eager to debate and question. A-level English Literature. The A-level English Literature course is divided into four broad components: drama, prose, poetry, and coursework. For the drama component, in Year 1, you'll study the Shakespearean comedy Twelfth Night, with a critical anthology that will include some literary criticism about the play. In Year 2, you'll study another play, A Streetcar Named Desire, by the American playwright Tennessee Williams, which tackles themes of prejudice, identity, and social change. For the prose section, you'll examine two prose texts from a chosen theme. One, a well-known literary classic written for 1900, we're reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The other, a well-regarded modern novel, such as Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Both will be studied in Year 1 and revisited with a sharper critical eye in Year 2. You'll be expected to read these texts in your own time. For the poetry component, in Year 1 you'll look at a range of poetry from the anthology Poems of the Decade, exploring poetic form, meaning, language, style and conventions. This will be revisited in Year 2 when these poems will be compared to an unseen contemporary poem. In the second year, you'll study selected poems from John Donne, a poet from the same era as Shakespeare, who wrote witty and philosophical poetry about love, sex, death and conflict within the self. Finally, for the coursework component, you'll have a bit more freedom to choose your own text within a given theme. For example, The Picture of Dorian Gray and The Importance of Being Earnest, both by Oscar Wilde. The final essay comparing these two texts will be between 2,500 and 3,000 words long and will require independent reading and research.
A-level English Language and Literature. The A-level English Language and Literature course includes a wide range of spoken and written texts, both fiction and non-fiction, which we analyse using literary and linguistic concepts and terminology. This means we take a microscope to the texts, picking apart the connotations of individual words and phrases and thinking about the choices writers or speakers make. We'll teach the key concepts from a linguistic approach to enable you to be more precise in your interpretation of texts. This means you have to be prepared to learn a lot of technical terminology and how to apply the terms when writing your essays. Students really appreciate understanding their texts in more depth and detail through the use of this close analysis. The A-level in English Language and Literature is divided into three distinct units. In Unit 1, we'll study an anthology of spoken and written texts called Voices in Speech and Writing. This contains a wide variety of texts such as newspaper articles and reports, extracts from autobiographies, travel writing and digital texts such as blogs. In the exam, you'll write an essay comparing one of these texts with another unseen non-fiction text. In the second year, you'll study Translations by Brian Friel. This is a play set in Ireland which describes how the Gaelic language came under attack, and it asks the question, what does it mean to lose your own language? Although the play is set in 1833 and is written in 1980 at the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, it still has lots of resonance and relevance today. It really helps to get students interested in politics and issues around cultural identity. For Unit 2, you'll study F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel The Great Gatsby and Shakespeare's tragedy Othello. This will follow the theme Society and the Individual. Both texts present the characters as outsiders who struggle to fit into society. Othello in particular provokes some tough questions about race relations, while The Great Gatsby tackles themes such as money, class, power and love. Finally, Unit 3 is the coursework component. This is where you'll be required to produce some creative writing in response to the study of some stimulus texts. The creative writing will include both fiction and non-fiction pieces. You have to write based on real-life experiences. So students, for example, will travel to London to gather first-hand observations and inspiration. You'll also get to analyse your language choices in a written commentary. Essentially, this is an essay in which you technically analyse your own writing.
How will these courses be assessed? For the A-level English Literature course, the second year begins with coursework that represents 20% of the final grade. The course culminates in 3 final exams, the drama and poetry exam both being 2 hours 15 minutes and the prose exam being just 1 hour. The exams focus on the text studied and test the analytical skills developed during the course. For the A-level in English Language and Literature, here too the second year begins with a coursework which represents 20% of the final grade. Then at the end of the year, there are 2 written exams of 2 hours, 30 minutes each. These focus on the text studied, but include some unseen non-fiction, and are each worth 40% of the final mark. All the exams in both English courses are open book, which means students can take copies of the text into the exams with you. It goes without saying though that you'll need to know your text really well.
What can you do with an A-level in English? Students doing A-level English, whether it's the English Literature or English Language and Literature course, develop excellent communication skills, both in the written and spoken form. It's these skills that set students up for all manner of careers. These courses encourage you to critique the world around you, to understand that the fluidity of language makes a lot of what we take for granted unreliable. It should also help you appreciate how writing tackles big questions about our place in society. Many students continue with an English or an English-related degree at university. Others study law, history, sociology or psychology, for example, making use of the linguistic analysis skills acquired from their A-level English. An A-level in English is particularly relevant to careers in law, marketing, advertising, PR, journalism, film, acting, teaching and other arts jobs, but since it's such a well-regarded facilitating subject, it really can lead to almost anything.
Do students take part in any trips or extracurricular activities? A-level English students have the opportunity to take part in a variety of course-related trips and events. These have recently included visits to the Globe, National Theatre and the Old Vic. Our students also get involved in a variety of workshops organised by visiting outside organisations. We have 2 extracurricular clubs, book group and creative writing, which have also organised trips, such as a workshop with children's author Michael Rosen at the British Library.
We hope you'll now have the information you need to decide between the 2 courses. If you need any more information about the college's 2 A-level English courses, then please take a look at the college's website or email inquiries@reigate.ac.uk. Thanks for listening.